What are you doing? I drove to a park famous for its plum orchards and met a pregnant woman there. Incredibly, she was rummaging through the trash. Her clothes were tattered, and she looked like she hadn't bathed in days. But no doubt about it, she was my son's wife, Emma. Emma, what happened to you? As soon as I spoke to her, she shook her head, denying she knew me, and tried to flee. I was sure it was her, so I grabbed her arm, only to find she was skin and bones. As I stood in shock, her stomach growled loudly. Are you hungry? Want some of this? I handed her the sandwich I had. She gulped, said in a weak voice, "Thank you very much," took the food, and left in a flash. I was left in shock. She looked just like Emma. Feeling sorry for the starving pregnant woman, and intrigued, I pulled out my phone and called my son Liam. "Liam, I just met Emma in a park about an hour from your house." "Huh? What are you talking about? She just gave birth." Just moments ago, he joyfully told me about his newborn son who looks just like him, and firmly stated it wasn't his wife. But wasn't her due date a month away? It's not uncommon for babies to be born early. Even for her first, something didn't sit right with me, and I pressed on. "Hey, cut it out. Aren't you happy about your grandson? It's not like that. I'm sorry. Stop talking nonsense. There are plenty of people who look alike." While I was happy about my grandson's birth, the recent scene haunted me, and I ended up mentioning the sandwich. "What are you doing? You fell for a sandwich scam. Don't go to that park again. Next time, you might get more than you bargained for." How rude. What a thing to say. Liam remained cheery, not minding my anger. Maybe Emma really did give birth, and the woman at the park was just a stranger. Feeling like I'd been fooled, I went silent. Maybe now that Dad's retired and Mom's 63, you're starting to lose it, huh? No way. I'm going to see Emma's baby. Annoyed by his remarks, I ended the call and drove for about an hour. I knew which hospital she was at, so I followed the GPS there. Liam was looking around the hospital entrance when I arrived. "Did you wait for me?" "Well, labor took a long time, and Emma isn't feeling well. Visits were not allowed yet. But I couldn't leave without seeing my grandson." Liam took me to the nursery, and I glimpsed the baby through the glass. "He's adorable. Of course, he's my son. And how's Emma doing? She should be okay." I didn't push to see her right away, but I was still uneasy about Liam's responses. As I prepared dinner at home, my mind kept drifting back to the incident in the park. Who on earth did I meet then? Emma's only relative is her father, so it doesn't look like she has any sisters or anything like that. Having met Emma several times over the 3 years she's been married to my son, there's no way I could mistake her for someone else. People say everyone has 3 lookalikes in the world. It must have been a case of mistaken identity. Despite reassuring myself, another question surfaced. Why was a pregnant woman scavenging in the park? Disturbed, I woke up early the next morning and went back to the park, hoping to meet the woman who resembled Emma. However, I never encountered the pregnant woman again, despite several visits. Over 10 days later, as I was about to give up and return home, I stopped by a convenience store. There she was. The woman, who looked like Emma, was there. Out of sheer hunger, she was being detained by a clerk for shoplifting a sandwich. As the clerk angrily threatened to call the police, she trembled, and tears welled up in her eyes. Seeing this, I stepped forward impulsively. "No. Did they mistake you for a shoplifter?" "Gah. I'm sorry, sir. My daughter-in-law forgot her purse, so I came to pay for her." "How much is it?" As I pulled out my wallet at the cash register, the embarrassed clerk scolded her. "Don't act suspiciously." Standing in for the tearful woman who could only bow her head, I apologized repeatedly until the clerk was finally convinced. "Come on, let's go." As we left the convenience store, she meekly followed. "Thank you." She thanked me in a whisper so faint I almost didn't catch it, but her stomach growled again, betraying her hunger. "There's no need to cry. Take this. In return, let's chat a bit." She hesitated for a moment but nodded slightly, unable to resist her hunger. First, without saying a word, I had her sit on a bench in a nearby park and gave her a sandwich to eat. She wolfed it down, choking a bit as she stuffed her mouth full. She looked exactly like Emma no matter how I looked at her. While observing her, I spotted a familiar birthmark on her neck. It has a distinctive shape, like a flower. I have seen it when my daughter-in-law came to stay at our house, and she once told me that it was a birthmark. Same location, same mark, same shape. This can't be a coincidence. However, I didn't want to frighten her into running away again. I held back my urge to rush things, careful not to upset her. "You seem to be pregnant. Are you near your due date?" While brushing rice crumbs from her face, she nodded, and I asked why she was living this way. She began to speak hesitantly, revealing that she had been living in the mountains and took several days to reach the park. As I listened with a gentle smile, gradually, she began to open up. From there, I sympathized with her and said to her, "I see. That was tough." Then, with tears in her eyes, she shared more about her dire situation. What a relief to have found her. But what a horrifying truth is hidden here. The more I heard about it, the more sorry I was, and the more shocked I was because of the horrifying facts that were hidden there. "I can't leave you like this. Please come home with me." Wary, she looked uncertain and covered her mouth as if she'd spoken too much and started shaking. "I'll make sure you and your baby are safe." Looking her straight in the eyes and squeezing her hand conveyed my sincerity, and she finally agreed. When I brought her home, my husband was shocked. After explaining the situation, he understood and said, "We need to help her somehow." And then, he made a call to a certain place. From my husband, I gathered shocking information. A few days later, thinking my daughter-in-law, Emma, must have been discharged with the baby by now, I dialed my son's number. "I'm coming over with a gift for the baby, Liam." Welcome. She's actually gone back to her hometown right now. "Why? Emma has no place to go back to, right?" My son suddenly spoke in a rushed tone. "What are you talking about? Mom, you must have lost your mind. Seriously, don't give me a blur or something. Was I mistaken?" I said this as I opened the front door. Seeing me suddenly at his door, Liam was momentarily stunned. I had actually been calling from right in front of his house. "Mom, why? I told you I was coming. Leaving your door unlocked is careless. I'm coming in." As I entered, I found Liam and an unfamiliar woman inside. And who might this be? Don't just barge in. There's a lot going on. Why is she holding my grandchild? When I bombarded him with questions about what was really going on, my son scratched his head and sighed, "Oh brother." Then, with a look of resolve, he turned to face me. I was going to explain later. "This is Amelia, my new wife." What happened to Emma? Isn't she about to give birth?" Liam dodged the question. "She went back to her parents' home. Her father passed away, so she shouldn't have a home to return to." "No. Really?" I approached Liam and fixed him with a stern gaze. "To think, the moment her father died, you'd kick out your pregnant wife. I'm ashamed you're my son. Mom, are you dreaming? Stop lying. I know you left Emma in the mountains." Indeed, the pregnant woman in the park was definitely my daughter-in-law, Emma. After we left the convenience store that day, she eventually confided everything that had happened. "By the way, she's being taken care of at our home." Liam clicked his tongue. "So, you knew it, huh?" "It was Emma who cheated first. The child in her belly belongs to another man," he claimed bitterly. That's why he expelled Emma and moved on with his life, growing close to Amelia, the woman now with him. "Let's do a DNA test to see who's telling the truth." I pulled out a swab sent from a private testing service. Liam shook his head furiously, refusing. So, I discreetly picked up a hair that had fallen on Liam's shoulder. "Just in case, I'll take your toothbrush too." "Stop it. Stop doing whatever you want. Be quiet. If it turns out you are the father of Emma's child, be prepared because I'll file a police report." Liam seemed unaware that abandoning a pregnant woman in the dead of winter could be criminal. Despite such atrocious behavior, Liam pleaded for a quiet resolution. "The best thing is to ask her what she wants to do." I went to the door, opened it, and invited Emma and my husband, who had been waiting in the car, inside. With heavy footsteps and a fierce expression, Emma entered. Liam hadn't expected them to come with me. With each step Emma took closer, Liam began to sweat and step back. "Emma, it's good to see you're safe. Don't joke. I won't forgive you for falsely accusing me and putting our child at risk." But since everything turned out okay, can't we just call it even? Are you kidding me? Do you have any idea how hard I worked for days to get down from the mountain to the park just to protect my child? About a month ago, Emma was lured for a drive by Liam, who left her stranded while she was admiring the scenery. She managed to make it to the park, but was too scared of what Liam might do next to return home. So she started living in the park, which had amenities like water and toilets. Moreover, Emma's father had passed away 2 months prior, leaving her without a family home to return to. Just thinking about how alone she must have felt makes my chest tighten with pain. And to top it off, she was under the impression we were furiously angry, thinking she had cheated and gotten pregnant, an idea Liam had instilled in her. That's why she even fought, if they find me, I'm as good as dead. That's the reason she tried to flee instead of seeking help when she met me. Explain yourself now. Why did you do such a terrible thing? If I talk, will you keep the police out of it? I'll consider it. Now, hurry up and tell me. Under my stern gaze and my husband's glowering look, Liam, realizing he could no longer evade the truth, finally spoke up. I reconnected with Amelia, my new wife, at a high school reunion 7 months ago, and we quickly became close. And, well, she got pregnant right away. It must be fate. That doesn't justify abandoning Emma. Amelia is the same age as me, but Emma is 3 years older. Plus, Amelia's father owns a big company, and eventually, I'll take over. Not only that, but it was presumed that Emma was carrying a girl. Amelia's child is a boy, so I figured once I'm the boss, I can hand the company over to my own son, continuing the lineage with all sorts of these selfish excuses. By the way, I've already divorced Emma and married Amelia, so it's too late now. I don't recall signing any divorce papers. I forged your signature. Liam boldly admitted. That's forgery, a crime, you know. What? Really? I can't just let this fool go unchecked. You've just piled one crime on top of another. You're truly the worst. I've told you everything, so don't make this a police matter. I'm cutting ties with a good-for-nothing like you. Don't ever contact us again. Even as I said this, Liam didn't flinch but coolly replied, do as you please. Moreover, he seemed not to see his own father, who remained silent behind Emma the whole time, looking horrified and glaring at him. For Liam, money and status must be all that matters right now. We were utterly dismayed by his lack of remorse, but I decided to drop one last piece of news. Did you know Amelia's father's company is about to go bankrupt? Is that okay with you? What? My father was a business partner of the company he worked for before he retired. I got this information from one of my former employees. No, wait. Sorry you had to find out this way, but rebuilding a debt-ridden company is not a joke. As Liam protested that it couldn't be true, my husband said, I heard it from a trustworthy source, so it's definitely true. Then Liam kept asking Amelia, that's not true, right? It can't be, right? But she just looked down, not responding. Her silence was perhaps the most telling proof of all. First off, give me back the savings and the life insurance policy you stole by framing me for cheating. Those savings were communal property, right? That money was from my savings I started as a kid, long before we married. It should be around $38K, right? Liam sighed heavily and muttered, I already spent that money. Emma insisted on getting it back, pressing Liam for answers. Surprised by the turn of events, my foolish son could only gape. Also, you can't claim Emma's father's life insurance money. You're not a legal heir. Faced with this further blow, Liam's body started to tremble. And then, he directed his frustration at Amelia. You really tricked me. My dreams of becoming a president are shattered. How are you going to fix this? Amelia retorted to Liam, it's your fault for being deceived, and an ugly argument broke out. During their heated exchange, Amelia revealed, I was looking for a man to support me at the reunion because my father's company was in trouble. She thought everything was going according to plan when she reconnected with Liam and got pregnant. Liam is something else, but Amelia is just as cunning. In a way, they are a matched pair, possibly well suited for each other. But I was fed up with their squabbles, so I clapped my hands loudly to interrupt them. Enough. Hey Amelia, was your baby premature? No, it was born right on the due date. I wasn't asking you. Generally, babies aren't born so early. It takes about 10 months. Liam, puzzled, pulled out his smartphone to check the facts. After realizing something, he glared at Amelia. "You didn't lie, did you? Who's the father of the child?" Amelia bit her lip and kept silent. "It looks like DNA testing is needed for Liam and Amelia. I handed the swab from the testing service to my son." As he approached a baby with the swab, Amelia quickly moved the child away from Liam. Liam's face fell into despair. "You've got to be kidding. To see is to believe. I think you don't even need to do the tests. Liam and Amelia, you should pay Emma $20K each for the affair." At my words, Liam's face looked as if he'd been shot. "Huh? Why? Of course. Then I'll add on top of that the compensation for the pain and suffering you've caused Emma. That's not all. I'll also charge you $600 per month for child support for Emma's child until she turns 20. Wait a minute. I'm going to be drowning in debt." As soon as he heard the specific amounts, sweat began to trickle down Liam's forehead. "You're just reaping what you sowed. Oh, and by the way, you'll be dealing with the police too." "Wait, didn't you say you wouldn't call the police if I told you everything? I decided to report you after all." "Sorry, not sorry." Desperate to avoid arrest, Liam knelt down and begged me. "Mom, please forgive me. You're apologizing to the wrong person. Emma, I'm terribly sorry. Please, forgive me." Liam quickly turned around and bowed his head to the floor, but Emma was not about to accept his flimsy apology. And all the while, my husband, with a fierce look, kept his gaze fixed on Liam. Then Liam made an unexpected remark. "Dad, come on, you're a man too. You've had your fair share of affairs, right?" My husband leaned in close, furrowed his brow, and said sternly, "I have not. Don't compare me to scum like you." Realizing no one was on his side, Liam slumped to the floor, defeated. "Please, help me. The harm you've done to Emma and her inborn child is a grave offense. I'll change, I promise." "I'm not listening." "Oh, look, the red lights are flashing. Thanks for calling at just the right time." Liam, believing I hadn't yet called the police, was shocked beyond belief. As Amelia tried to flee in that moment of distraction, my husband quickly caught her. "You're not getting away. You'll have plenty of time to reflect behind bars." Realizing resistance was futile, I handed Liam and Amelia over to the police. Following their arrest, they were interrogated and faced serious charges for conspiring against Emma and her inborn child. Furthermore, Liam was charged with forging the divorce papers. I hired a legal consultant to sell the couple's house, which, despite still having a mortgage, broke even. I made my son agree to pay a total of $30K for infidelity and emotional distress, along with $38K from Emma's savings, and $600 monthly for child support. Amelia was asked to pay the same amount in compensation for infidelity and emotional distress. Amelia's father's company went bankrupt quickly, so both my son and Amelia will have to find whatever work they can to make these payments. That's right. It turned out that the child Amelia was carrying was actually from another classmate, and the biological father has taken on the responsibility of raising the child. It's a relief the child won't suffer because of all this. Emma later gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. My husband and I discussed it and decided to adopt Emma, welcoming her to live with us. Our home is now filled with the joyful sounds of a healthy baby, and as we struggle with the caregiving, our family enjoys these happy days together.